Today we're going to take a look at Copilot Studio. It's a graphical low-code tool for creating and maintaining copilots. So the idea is that you should be able to leverage this capability to build copilots for whatever use case that you have. We're going to dive right into it, and we're going to be following along with one of these training modules. So you can come to the top right corner over here, create Copilot with Microsoft Copilot Studio training. So over here, it's going to give you some instructions for how to actually go about building your own Copilot. The idea is that you can create Copilots using natural language, using GPT to generate topics, trigger phrases, etc. And it's going to take about 34 minutes to complete this module. Okay, you can see that there's an introduction, you're going to do an exercise, and then check your knowledge and summary. Okay, so let's go through the introduction. So I think one of the big features that they have kind of incorporated into Power Virtual Agent and now with Copilot Studio is this thing called conversation boosters. And what it does is it enhances the AI assistant's ability to respond. It allows your Copilot to find and present information from multiple sources, internal or external, without creating new topics. So now we're going to build a bot in Microsoft Copilot Studio with the new AI capabilities. First thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to sign in to Microsoft Copilot Studio. And you can actually find it at powerva.microsoft.com, or you can also find it at copilotstudio.microsoft.com. Power Virtual Agents is now Microsoft Copilot Studio. Okay, so if you're running the error, it means you're not using a work or school account. So what you're going to need to do is actually try to switch over and find a work or school account. Okay. And if your organization hasn't given you access to it yet, then what you're going to want to do is to actually go to the Copilot trial page, Copilot Studio trial page. The trial only lasts for 30 days, and after that you'll be able to extend it by another 30 days. Your Copilot will continue to work for up to 90 days after your trial. Okay, and personal email doesn't work. All right, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's come back over here. So once you've signed in, you open up this Copilot page, and you can see that we have Copilots as a button over here, or just from the home page, I can actually ask to create a custom Copilot. Okay. So we can click on the button, and now we can actually rename it. So we're following the exercise that was given over here. The details that they've given is actually for us to rename Copilot as a real estate booking service. Of course, you can customize this for whatever business that you're running. In this case, I'm going to keep it to the real estate booking service. And, okay, in this case, since I'm doing this for the second time, I'm going to use this as number 2. You can select the language. I believe there's about 23 different languages currently supported. Okay. And what we can do is we can enter a website. So the instructions that you would see would be for real estate, we're going to enter a real estate website. So let's try out Zillow. And this is where the information is going to be grounded on. There is a button to edit advanced options, but I'm going to recommend that you don't click on this yet. Let's get straight into building the Copilot first. One of the things that advanced options can also do if you do it incorrectly is you can actually end up creating a classic module, like a previous Power Virtual Agent version, which doesn't incorporate the full Copilot Studio capabilities. It doesn't have that conversation booster, and it's not going to work the same way that this module wants us to work out as well. Okay, so we're going to click on Create, get into it. Going to take a couple of minutes just to set up. Okay, and now you can see there are new features in Microsoft Copilot Studio. We can add images and videos and messages, insert logic using equations, build quickly with intelligent authoring, and answers created with GPT. Yeah, so you can elevate the message, expand capabilities. All right, so now we've actually provisioned the real estate booking service. If you look at the top over here, if it says classic, it means you've done something wrong. You're going to want to restart and try to create your Copilot all over again. It's not going to work if you're using the classic model. Okay, and right now we're setting up Zillow as my website because we're talking about real estate. You can see that actually it's already opened up a test Copilot panel over here, and I can speak to it. Okay, so over here I'm asking it to, help me with finding an apartment, and because it's been grounded on information from Zillow.com, it's going to pull up some details on that. So it's given me 11 steps on finding in my search, and all of these links are from Zillow. So 2 references over here from Zillow. Okay, and if I clicked on it, it's actually gonna bring me to how it's actually using that conversational boosting to understand what I want and how to return the right information. But now we want to get into a bit more detail because we want this Copilot assistant to also be able to help us with gathering some information from the customers or employees or whoever it is that we're working with as well. Okay, so for the time being, I'm going to close this test Copilot and we're going to head back up in terms of the topics. Okay, you can see that some of the topics have already been created and they are triggered by different phrases. So over here, goodbye, this is the ending. So if I actually say bye, goodbye, some of these phrases, it's going to understand that we are ending the conversation. Greeting, same thing. If I say hi, it's going to trigger a certain topic. Okay, so some of these have already been built. Following along, what we're going to want to do is to actually create a topic. Okay, and in this topic, the thing that we want to be able to do is book a real estate showing. So when we think about gathering form information, right? This is an example of how we're going to collect a user's full name, email, address of the property, date and time of showing, some of those details. Okay, so we're going to click on create, go over to topic, and we're going to create it from a description. So again, we're leveraging generative AI. So I've pasted the information from the instructions. You can see that over here I'm saying full name, email address. Okay, these are some of the details that we're going to get into in a moment. Okay, so create. Okay, so now it's built out a topic flow that we have over here. The triggers is given us some phrases. So if you want to add in additional phrases as well, you can do that. You can see it's asking the various questions. What's your full name, email address, address of the property, date and time. So the different responses that we wanted. Following the flow of the tutorial, what we want to do is we actually want to make it a bit more personal, right? So in step 11 over here, we actually want to update the message to say thank you to the name variable from the previous note and then proceed to ask the question. Okay, so in this example, we're saying in the first question, we're asking for the full name. We're getting a full name. And then before we ask, when we want to ask the next question, what's your email address? We want to be able to update this to actually reflect the full name of the person who we're interacting with. Make it a bit more personal. So to do that, we're actually going to click on the Edit with Copilot button, or if you don't see this full text, you might see this icon of 2 stars over here. Mine is already open, popped up. So if I click on this, it's going to open this up. And what you're going to see over here is that currently there are no notes selected. So you want to click on the question that we're working with or that we want to edit. Okay. And instead of having to edit it manually over here, which I can edit the text. I can edit the response. Okay. We're actually going to use Copilot to do that for us. Okay. So I've selected one note. I'm going to paste in over here. I want to update the message to say thank you to the name variable from the previous note and then proceed to ask the question. Now, what you're going to notice over here is that the name variable, we haven't actually created that because ours is called full name. So if I try to do this and I click update, okay, it's kind of messed up in this case. So it's it that the topic has been updated. I actually don't see that this note has been updated. instead, what it's done is it's created some form of a note at the end, which is an error, okay, because it's trying to find a name variable. So you can see how this is a copilot. It's not an autopilot. It's not recognizing everything automatically for you. So coming back over here, click on the question. I'm going to try this again. And this time around, because my variable is called full name, I'm going to specify it as full name variable from the previous node and then proceed to ask the question. Okay, you see what I had to do was I had to change the variable name to full name. I had to specify I'm actually editing this node. Okay, so I've actually selected the node and I have to specify I want to edit this node, and now it's updated it. So now you can see I'm actually saying thank you to the user response, full name, and then now we're asking for what's the email address. So again, Copilot, not autopilot, not going to get everything right. Okay, so once we've done that, the next thing that we want to do is we want to be able to summarize it, and we want to have it as a adaptive card that we've collected all this information. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come in here. This time we're not going to select any node. Okay, so cancel this out. Okay, no node selected. Now we want to summarize the information collected in an adaptive card. Okay, and we're gonna update. So now if we come all the way down to the end, you can see that it's tried to create an adaptive card. So this is an adaptive card that it's created. Okay, but the formula and the details that it's showing over here isn't quite right. And that's because it's added some additional details. It's given you what the errors are as well. You can actually see in the guide over here, it gives you what the output should be. Just that the name over here should be full name for ours, or for yours it might be a different type of name. And they've actually given the details over here. So in this guide, they've said that you can actually copy and paste the formula below and paste it in. If I actually do a side-by-side comparison, you can actually see that the details similar, but some errors are showing up over here. So things like this schema, this is incorrect. We don't need this over here, right? What we want is actually, we wanted this text block that is saying that we are saying thank you for the information provided. You can see over here as well, the type, right? And over here we are putting colons over there, so that's setting up the formula. And it's happening for quite a lot of things, right? So all of these fields storing up errors over here. Okay, so one way is that you could edit it yourself, but you can also see that there's a button over here in the module, training module, that you can copy and paste it. Okay, so if I'm just giving an example of how I edit it. Okay, so that took a ton of time to be able to edit it. Okay, removing the inverted commas for a ton of the different fields. So if you're doing the same exercise, just feel free to copy and paste it. But if you're actually customizing it for your own use case, you might actually have to go through it and make sure that you are following a similar format. So things like type size, weight, all these indicators, you shouldn't have the inverted commas. Things like the value over here, right? So same for this value here. Okay, the field names, title, the value. And if you're using a formula, you also again don't want to use inverted commas. So that might be things that might be tripping you up. Okay, so I've updated it over here. Again, you could just copy and simply paste it over. Okay, and then it would most likely work perfectly. Just make sure you also check that over here, topic, the full name, you're selecting the right field. So not working perfectly, but we managed to get it up and running. So now that we've done that, the last thing that we want to do is we want to add a multiple choice question to confirm. So again, edit with Copilot. We want to add a multiple choice question to confirm if the user's information is correct. Okay. So again, I ran into an error with this previously. It tried to add that message somewhere else. See, it tried to edit my previous message. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to undo it because we've already fixed this adaptive card. We don't want to mess with it anymore. So my recommendation to you is actually you, instead of editing a Copilot directly, you create that new module first. And in this case, because you want to ask a question, you create it. So now you have a new blank question. You selected the node, and then now you're saying, okay, I want to update this node. Make sure that it's a multiple choice question. If that didn't work for you, then you might also want to just see if it created the node below. So for me, it's creating it below. So you can see it's kind of buggy still in terms of how it works, but it does help in terms of speeding up some of the creation. So if I wasn't familiar on how to create these multiple choice questions, having this as a good starting point could be a way to go. All right, so now I have this last question, and if I come back to the instructions, yeah, confirm choice. Okay, now we can rename the topic because now we want to be specific about what this topic does. We're going to save and we're going to test it. So over here, this topic is book real estate showing topic. Okay, top right over here, I'm going to click on save. Now we can test out this real estate booking Copilot. Okay, it's saved it. So I can click on the test Copilot button, and that's going to bring back up the chat. So if you hadn't closed it early on, it's still going to be there. You do have the options over here to turn on tracking between topics. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh it, start from scratch. What we want to do is we want to open with that conversational starter where we talk about how we want to book a real estate showing. Okay, so it's going through, and you can see it trigger through as well over here in the topic. So my full name, you can see now it's actually responding with my name. Okay, put in an email address, and for the address of the property, so I think they've given you an example in the exercise. You can place that in there. Okay, placing this example address, and finally it's asking me for the date and time. I'm going to change this to a date in the future, paste that in there, and you can see that we have created the adaptive card with all of my details. Now I can click yes. All right, so it's captured the information and it's followed everything that I wanted it to do. That's the end of the exercise, but as you can imagine, it doesn't seem to be complete in terms of where this information is going, right? What we're doing is we're asking the user to confirm, but we actually haven't even gotten into how this data is saved in the Dataverse, or using a Power Automate flow to send an email for confirmation. Okay, so this is just the starting module on how you get started with building a bot in Microsoft Copilot Studio. So again, not perfect, still has ways to go, but it gives you a good starting point. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that quick walkthrough. Do like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.